And I'll take a couple breaks. Okay. Oh. Hi, everybody. Good evening. How's it going? Welcome to the Black NewsBeat post-election episode. You know me. I'm going to do my election work no matter the outcome. So thank you for being here with me tonight. Thank you for holding a little bit of space with me as I am going through, my own recovery process and trying to reconcile all the work I've done in the last several months. So, but I'm still glad to be here. I'm so happy I have my community. I want to take a quick moment to thank everyone who sent a message today, everyone who called and texted. I've been trying to save my voice for this very moment. Yes, I do have an upper respiratory infection that I've been fighting for like a week. I actually went to the emergency room probably Saturday night, Friday night, trying to get through election day to make sure that I got some medication and make sure that, things didn't get too worse. I've been feeling pretty bad trying to fight through it. Shout out to my husband, Pastor. Hey, babe. For just being there for me and, watching me kind of go through all of the motions of this election. But why are we here, right? Why did I decide to even come on tonight? Why am I talking? Because I really do believe that we have some things to talk about, and we have to examine what happened, why it happened, and what we can do next. So I do have some topics that I want to go through with you, and I want to talk about. I want to operate from a sense of peace. Actually, I'm at peace with what happened. I am not at all disillusioned that the American people have spoken and they spoke loudly about what they wanted on for all their candidates. I do want to say that as much as we try to say what we said about Jill Stein, she barely broke 500,000 votes nationwide, so she was never really a threat. And if you add up a lot of the Jill Stein votes across the country in the battleground states, only one battleground state, it may have made a difference in, and that was possibly Michigan. Um, but a lot of the places that wasn't a factor. So I really do want to concentrate on those who did not vote and those who voted for Trump. If you voted, thank you. I don't like who you voted for, but I do applaud you for at least participating. Some of you, I like, you know, some of who you voted for, but I do applaud you for participating in the democratic process. What I think we will have to focus on going forward is just how we participate and how informed we are. But before we get into all that, I want to hold some space. So first, tag someone who's not here in the comment section and ask them to tune in because I want to hold space right now. I want to hold space for my LGBTQA plus family, particularly my trans brothers and sisters, because this is a rough one for us. It's a rough one if you are already facing extreme persecution in the community and in this world, to then have an abuser, a known rapist, someone who does not care about you or me now accelerating back into the presidency. This is clear. And a lot of people say, oh, are you unfriending? Are you guys, oh, you're being so weak or childish, and what are other words people are using for unfriending or cutting people out of your life who literally voted for your harm. I say, do what you have to do to persevere. Do what you have to do to stay alive, because that's really where we're at. So that's number one. Number two, I want to hold space for people who are sad. It's sad, and that's okay. I'm sad. I can't, for some reason, I've been kind of, just down all day, but I've part of my coping mechanism is analyzing things, so I've been in and out of that. But it is a sad day. And it's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay to acknowledge that it's sad, and it's okay to say, hey, it's a sad day. And that's right, Diane, those are called standards. And it's okay to acknowledge that we are sad. We are upset. What I think is the most upsetting thing about this is that people didn't expect it to be so bad, right? Losing all 7 swing states, insane. Losing Pennsylvania, I'm sitting in Pennsylvania, and many of you know I worked my ass off in Pennsylvania, and I'm proud of that. But I want to hold space for that because it's sad. And then I also want to hold space for black women. Black women are the backbone of democracy in this country, and collectively, we have all been let down again. And it is a hard thing to try to digest once again. But we do that. We often have to digest things in this country that, we put everything on the line, turn down jobs, leave our families, sleep on couches for months, couch hop, be totally and completely debased by some of our peers on the campaign too, in order to try to save democracy, only to watch people let us down, only to watch people vote against our bodies, only to watch people vote against our self-interest and their own. And somebody said, well, maybe your interests are different than others. And I agree. I think you're right. Our interests have to be different if you would vote for somebody who doesn't care about you and it wants to exact his own revenge. Exactly, Stephanie. Terry Stephanie, very tired of having to worry about our families, worry about black and brown bodies, worry about LGBTQIA plus folks, and the reason why I think particularly black women voted and black men voted at the highest rates that they did is because they understand what's at stake, while I think other people don't. And that's what I'm gonna say about it. I don't think people understand what's at stake. I think they understand what the ramifications of this vote are. I think people quickly forget why they did not vote for Donald Trump back in the second time he ran. And they allowed themselves to conjure up very imaginary things about Kamala Harris, besides the genocide. I think that's real, that they didn't like. And they put all the weight, and this is what happens with black women, right? Like you put all the weight of what's happening on her shoulders instead of being realistic about, what it means. What does it mean for Palestine now? What does it mean for our LGBTQA plus family? What does it mean for black and brown women? What does it mean for black men? And a lot of people say, well, we don't care. We don't care that Trump is racist as long as he pays us. We don't care if he's blank, 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 as long as he keeps making sure that my family can eat and he lowers these grocery prices. And I appreciate all that. But there is a larger picture here that we still have to fight against, that we still have to work towards, that we still have to make sure that we are thinking about for the next generation, because we have set ourselves back at least a generation. The Supreme Court, Project 2025, how workers relate to their work. There are a lot of things that we are going to have to organize differently around if we want to see any kind of progress. We are not keeping any gains we made under a Biden-Harris administration, and we don't know what's going to happen with Israel now. We know that they have dedicated a place in, in East Jerusalem to kind of declare victory. So I am terrified. I'm even more terrified than I have been this whole time. I've been fueling my work, myself into my work to try and stop what I know is going to be a devastation, a further and total and complete devastation for Palestine. And that's where we are now. So I just wanted to kind of say that it's sad and it sucks, but it is what it is now. So between those who stayed home and those who voted for Trump, it's a telling indictment on Kamala Harris, right? That's what we're telling ourselves. Well, nobody liked her. I hear that a lot. And black women hear that dog whistle, and it kind of kicks up something in us because nobody likes us. Nobody likes that we have to make the hard decisions. Nobody likes that we speak the way we do. Nobody likes that we, try to align one side or another in an effort to save as many people as possible. And that's what I saw in Kamala Harris and what she was trying to do. But, are there critiques of the party that we have to make? Absolutely. We saw how Hispanic men voted. We saw how Hispanic women voted. We saw how white women voted. We saw how white men voted. And it's eerily similar to 2016. So there's a lot there that we have to examine. It feels quite like people were like, ain't no way in hell that y'all gonna get a black Jamaican Indian president before you get, I don't know, other things. That's what it feels like. It feels like people, and I could be wrong, right? Maybe it's really about groceries and eggs. Maybe it's really about gas prices. Um, but people forget the dire straits we were under Trump when the pandemic was at an all-time high and how expensive everything was and how expensive gas was. But I remember, Pepperidge Farm remembers. So I don't buy those arguments when I hear those things and I actually look at the facts. It doesn't make sense. So it leads me to believe it's something else. Leads me to believe there's something about Kamala Harris that people, lots of people, didn't like, and I think it's just that she, on one side, didn't fit with folks' identity, and the other side didn't fit with some people's politics. But what I did see was people started to start saying the same things about her on the extreme left and extreme right. And that's what kind of should have tipped me off. But I have an undying hope in America. I have an undying hope in my peers. And so I didn't let it, I didn't really concentrate on it the way I should have. And people started, black women, oh, she's not black. White men, oh, she's not black. Um, so many different people on both sides of this aisle saying the same thing about her. And it had to do with her identity. So what it makes me believe more than anything is that we still have a huge problem with black women. And people say, oh, she's not black, but she is coded black for so many of you, right? And so many, she's coded black for me. As a first generation American from the Caribbean, she's coded black. And a lot of y'all will say she's not black because I guess that gives you an excuse not to fuck with her. But as a black woman, it's very reminiscent of the way they talked about, a lot of us who were trying to do the best we could, who were getting, certain how we're presenting in school, like a lot of folks would say, to us, especially us first gens, they would say, well, you're not really black because you're not from here. So it's this nationalistic idea about what black is that we just can't get over. And it really showed its nasty head in this election, right? I've been perusing the internet a little bit today. I had slept a lot because voice. But there's black people saying, oh, I'm glad she doesn't have to pretend she's black anymore. Because we've let white supremacy tell us that black and brown people who are not from this country are black, right? That is a direct result of white supremacy. And I want to make sure we state that clearly for the record, right? Black Americans feeling a way about Caribbean Americans is a long-standing history, right? Caribbean Americans feeling a way about black Americans is a long-standing history that was manufactured by the U.S. government. I wrote about this in my dissertation. And people before me have written about it. But look up the Immigration Act of 1955 and how that affected black Caribbean relations after the Harlem Renaissance in the United States, right? And how they started to bring in Caribbean blacks who could read, because we banned, not we, but enslavers had prohibited and killed people for trying to read in this country. So by 1955, when they needed an en masse workforce who could read and who were extremely literate at high levels, we didn't have one. We had our talented 10th. We had some other stuff going on, but we didn't have the people they needed. So they went to the Caribbean and got some other folks between the Harlem Renaissance in 1955 and then opened the floodgates up. These are all things that are historically documented. These are all things that we know affect how we understand the United States and our place in the United States. And we have to talk about them, right? Flipping this script to say that somehow either side, particularly on the black Americans and black immigrant side, to say that we should be against each other is something we have to fight against, because we get Trump when we do this. We get Trump who will use your blackness against you to carry out his white supremacist aims. That's what we get. So I want to make sure I state that clearly. That's something that I see as a very clear line. And there's some ups and downs in there. There's some fits and starts. There's some progress and setbacks. But that's the line, guys. We are doing this thing where we want to have progress at the expense of other people, and we have to figure that out. So we got to talk about that as well. So let's talk about returns. Sex by race. 39% of white men were 34% of the electorate. 39% of them voted for Kamala Harris. 59% of them voted for Donald J. Trump. White women were 37% of the electorate, 3 percentage points higher than white men. Let that sit with you. 47% of them voted for Kamala Harris, 52% of them, over half of that 37% of that electorate voted for Donald J. Trump. Black men, 78%, only 5% of the electorate, but 78% of them voted for Kamala Harris, 20% voted for Donald Trump, and 2% voted other. Black women, 92% of black women voted for Kamala Harris, 7% voted for Donald Trump, and I think 2% voted, 1% voted other. Latino men, 54% for Donald Trump, 44% for Kamala Harris. Latino women, 61% for, 44% for Latino men for Kamala Harris, 54% for Donald Trump. Latina women, 61% for Kamala Harris, 37% for Donald Trump, and all other races, 50% for Kamala Harris, 45% for Donald Trump, and about 5% other. So those are the numbers, right? That's how we got where we are. And somebody said it very well online today that white men and women obviously won this election for Donald Trump. And that's who they want as their leader. And it's not about fascism for them, right? It's not about, I don't think it's about groceries. I think it's about, I think it's about identity politics. I saw this TikTok and this man said very clearly that, you know, he voted for Donald Trump for one reason and one reason alone. And maybe he doesn't represent all white men. I don't think he does. But I do know some and a lot that feel this way. But they voted for Kamala Harris, or they voted for Donald Trump because Kamala Harris represents the declinement of the white race in the United States. And that's something that people are very afraid of. Again, this identity politics. Again, this nationalism. Again, this, especially because she is black or black coded for some of you who don't believe she's black. And she is a woman, right? White men in particular, this is a terrifying moment. It was, I should say, because now they succeeded. They do not want a black woman. That represents the absolute last stop on the train before they are no more the majority, right? That's the absolute last stop. Terry Stephanie says, it's funny how she was black enough to be the first VP, but not black enough to be president. Right. She can't be black enough to be president. It's funny because it was the first black woman vice president, and we didn't hear a lot. You know, we didn't hear this loud chorus until, this is why it makes it so dangerous when people kind of parrot certain talking points without examining where they came from, until the MAGA movement picked up that majority of black voices and amplified it, particularly black American voices, right? Black American voices who are disillusioned with the Democratic Party, and in a lot of reasons, a lot of cases, rightfully so. They picked up that she's not black, and they spat it out into the stratosphere because they have the numbers to do it. Well, everyone started saying she's not black. Everyone started doing this kind of movement towards disqualifying her based on the fact that she was somehow lying about her heritage. When literally, I'm not even going to say a generation ago, you had black people in this country who are African American telling everybody that they got good hair because they had Indian in their family. That was just a second ago. Just want y'all to sit with that. We have people who were literally disqualifying their blackness to acculturate and assimilate into whiteness by claiming something other than black. And putting that on other people. Oh, you're not full black. You must have something else because you're pretty. You must have something else because you're smart. It's beef from somewhere else because you're not like black people here. That was just happening a second ago. Not even. I'm 43, and I was teaching in Brooklyn while all this was happening. And I was teaching in Brooklyn at 23. So the wool has been successfully pulled over people's eyes about identity politics and where they fit in the United States. They've othered particularly black Caribbean people because that's what you do, right? When you're trying to assimilate and acculturate, that's what you do. That's the gag, guys. There's no magic to it. I wish it was something magical I could tell you, but there's really not. What else did I want to say here? I also want to hold space for everyone else. Everyone else who voted for Kamala Harris who believes in democracy. who believes in the peaceful transfer of power, who believes that when the majority votes, that's what it is. I want to hold space for y'all. Because it's also easy to be like, well, we should, somebody said in a comment on Seisha's page that Kamala Harris should now become president for 2 months and like wreak havoc on Donald Trump. Well, tell Joe Biden to do that. They made that determination under his tenure as president months ago. So let him carry that burden. I don't see why Kamala Harris should be tasked with taking Donald Trump to task. That's something that white Democrats can do at some point. I don't think that's a black woman's job. And today we heard from the vice president, and I was, it was fine. I wasn't moved. I knew pretty much what she was going to say. We got to keep fighting, and we got to do the things. But I could see how devastated she was. I could see it. I could see the pained look on her face. And it's that look when you give it your all and you lose. It's that look when you know you've been fighting, you left it all on the field, and you're fighting for something good, and you still lose. And I feel that. I feel that very deeply. But I also feel like she's right. I feel like at some point, we have to figure out our organizing spaces and figure out what we're going to do next, because that's the work. I'm not doing that today or tomorrow, or probably not for the rest of the year. And a lot of people have texted me, let's do something, let's do this. Can I tell you that I've been doing this something for months? But a lot of us didn't like that. A lot of us didn't like that I was trying to make sense out of my own sense out of Palestine. Well, now we have what we have. A lot of you didn't like that I was working really hard to elect Kamala Harris because literally Donald Trump is the nuclear option. Y'all didn't like that. And that's cool. I'm cool with that because everybody has their own opinions. And everybody has their own stuff that they're fighting for. But I refuse to pretend like this man was ever a good choice. And not only was he not a good choice, I gotta plug my computer in before it dies, but not only was he not a good choice, but he was such a bad choice that we will definitely be reaping the consequences of this, what we did here with this election for generations to come, right? We know that, right? I hope we know that. There is no, I've been watching a lot of different podcasts. Sorry, I'm trying to plug my computer in. I've been watching a lot of different podcasts and people over the last few months to kind of make sense of things. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting was, I agree to that too, Stephanie. And exactly, Christian, we are better than this. Hispanics struggling with identity politics, we should be grateful. Right. It's a whole thing, right? Where people come into this country, absolutely, and they go, look at what white people have. If we could just get to that, we'll be happy. And I want to tell you that should not be the goal. That should not be the goal, guys, right? Whiteness does not equal the American dream. The American dream is supposed to be about freedom, and supposed to be about freedom of bodily choice, freedom of upward mobility, freedom of having a family, freedom of not having a family, freedom to travel, freedom for persecution, freedom of speech, freedom. That's the American dream, right? I feel like, and Stephanie said, I feel like they would have held folks accountable instead of trying to hold hands. We might not be here. Also, one of the biggest problems here, my voice cracking, that I had with this campaign, and I am on the campaign currently. I'll probably get in trouble for this, but don't give a shit. Is that we courted Republicans too much. Republicans who were not fucking with us. We actually did not gain any ground under Republicans, right? And instead we just got the Republican, right? Like there was nothing to court. And we left a lot of black and brown people, and particularly black men, in the dust. Yes, black men are only 5% of the electorate. But we did not court black people like we courted Republicans in the state of Pennsylvania or in other states. It was a foregone conclusion that black folks were going to vote, and they were right. But they did a bad job of courting black and brown folks, who are usually the trusted messengers in the community, even to other white people and to brown people, right? Black folks are the backbone of this democracy, period. And the fact that we decided that we were going to almost entirely forsake concentrating on black and brown folks is probably the biggest mistake that we made. But I can tell you one thing, that was not a mistake of the black people on this campaign. I promise you. That was not our mistake, not in the state of Pennsylvania and not anywhere else. So I'm proud to say that I feel good about me. I feel good about my work. I feel good about what I accomplished. I feel good about why I made the choices I made. And as many of you who tried to come at me earlier for the words I was saying, things, I appreciate your critique, but I said what I said. And we are here now because y'all could not get y'all shit together. That's another thing. And that's okay because, again, everybody has choices that they make. So I get it. But the amount of people who did not vote, the amount of people who voted for Donald Trump who wouldn't have otherwise, this is why we're here. So we got to face that, and we have to take action, right? Again, I'm gonna take a little break because I've been taking action. But for those of you who've been calling me, texting me today, oh, it's time to do something. Yeah, it's been time to do something. You're right. You're absolutely correct. I agree with you. So while I take a rest, I want to see what you do, and I'll be there whenever I'm ready to come out and do more things because we have to have a relay race. We have to make sure that we pass off the batons on people who are ready to work now because some of us are very tired, deservedly so, right? If I was gonna make a symbolic cape and hang it up so y'all can see, but I can still do it. Hold on. There go the cape. I'm gonna put it over there for now because I'm tired. I have been sick for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. I have gone through several injuries on this campaign, trying to run around the entire state of Pennsylvania, working with our Veterans Coalition, working with my 8 counties, working with my peers across the state, my political peers across the state, and I am tired. And I'm gonna hold space for myself on that because I did everything I could. And now I want to tell you some things I'm proud of. I am proud that I have built with my peers, with my friends, with my sisters and brothers, my LGBTQ family, even some of my Palestinian supporting family, and a whole bunch of other people, Jewish brothers and sisters, black men, brown men, Hispanic community around the area. We have built a strong coalition, so let's not lose that. There are steps we can take to start preparing for the midterms, right? A lot of people are like voting is dead and it's dumb and the electoral college, and I say to you, we still have to vote and we still have to participate because all elections are local. All elections are local. You have your city council races coming up, mayor. In a few years, your commissioners are up. You'll have more House races to deal with in a couple years. You'll have senators, the governorship, and so on and so forth, right? Your U.S. House and the Senate as well. So you still have work to do, but you have to decide now that you want to do that work and you have to sustain doing the work. Y'all know me. I stay working. I stay organizing our community. Why do you think I was able to do the stellar job that I was able to do on this campaign in our region? Do you think it was because I just am a popular person? No, y'all literally did not like me 4 years ago tomorrow, right? Y'all literally were mad at me for yelling at the cops. People were flooding my page with bullshit messages, talking about how I was a terrible person for cussing the cops out of my own backyard where they were not permitted to enter, and I told them so. Y'all didn't like me. And I am clear on that. But I still worked. I still did the work. I still am doing the work. Not only do I deserve the rest, but it's time for you to take up the baton, right? There are some of you who did do a lot of work, and I thank you for standing beside me, but there are a lot of you who have work to do. It is time for you to take the baton in this relay race, right? It's time. What kind of outcomes do you want in 2026? What kind of outcomes do you want in 2028? What kind of outcomes do you want in your mayorship, in your school board that is being attacked in Pennsylvania by right-wing extremists and national crystal fascists? What kind of outcomes do you want? Because that's what you have to ask yourself. What kind of school do you want for your kids when they cut funding to the Department of Education? What do you want? Because those are the questions you have to answer right now. How are you going to figure out overtime wages for your family when they change the way that you are going to be relating to your company, right? Cutting back on your wages. How are you going to do that? If we think things are bad now, how do you think they're going to look when the tariffs are in place? How will you feed your family? That's a real question, right? We were upset because eggs were high, and we said it was Kamala Harris's fault. So think about what that means for you now, because you still have to organize around that issue probably 10 times worse, right? Yes, the stock market's up, woo, but it's up for who? Not for you. Do you have enough stock for you to be like the stock market's up? Many Americans do not. So these are things you got to think about, right? And the organizing starts now. It starts now. Um, and does it seem like I'm being a little preachy? I can be today because I've earned the right to preach on this one, and I'm going to say that real loud. Um, the resolve of a black woman. Another thing when I looked at Kamala Harris's face, the resolve of a black woman who has lost is probably to me one of the scariest things. I looked at her face and I was like, she lost, and she lost, and she knows it was bad, but she's also resolved, and I can't wait to see what she does next. I'm very happy that I got to work for her. So I talked about the campaign. Where do we go from here? We have some organizing to do, and I want to drop a couple things in the chat that I've been reading today. And one of the things I want to talk about real fast, because I got to go to dinner with my husband and, do a little decompressing, is accelerationism. So the first bit of homework, accelerationism, that you have is you have to start learning about accelerationism, because part of what's happening here is that folks, and this is an idea that started on the left. So let's read what it is. Acceleration is a range of revolutionary and reactionary ideas in left-wing and right-wing ideologies that call for the drastic intensification of capitalistic growth, technological change, infrastructure sabotage, and other processes of social change to destabilize existing systems and create radical social transformations, otherwise referred to as acceleration, right? So I heard a lot of people when I was talking about why it was important to vote for Kamala Harris, even though they disagree with her on Palestine in particular, they said, well, maybe everything needs to go to shit. That's acceleration. That's exactly what they're talking about. Maybe Donald Trump doesn't need to get elected again, so people learn their lesson. That's acceleration. That's a local and kind of like watered down, elementary 101 kind of expression of accelerationism, because people get frustrated with the system that won't change, and then they go, well, this is the only way to change it. Maybe you're right. Maybe we will get what we wish here. But left-wing acceleration and right-wing accelerationism have different goals. And so you have to learn about those goals. One is to bring about socialism, and the one is to further white supremacy. Guess which one is which, right? And what has happened is that right-winged movements, MAGA, Boogaloo Boys, Proud Boys, all these other things, they have co-opted accelerationist ideals and accelerationist theory and tenets to apply to white nationalist movements. So Elon Musk, he's at the top of the food chain of white nationalist accelerationism as the richest illegal immigrant in the world. He's at the top of that food chain. Why? They want to move fast, break things, make the most money, conquer the world. They're on that imperialistic stuff. That's what they're on. And they think that the government stands in the way of their biggest goals. We are fighting a real battle with accelerationism that I want people to understand. And so read up on that. I'll drop a couple links in here. The Anti-Defamation League wrote an article a few years ago about white supremacists embracing accelerationism, and they have been warning about this for years. And don't think that white supremacy, even though the Anti-Defamation League is writing this, don't think that white supremacy still isn't running rampant through Israel, right? And with Jewish people. It's running rampant. And I want to be clear on that too. Like, this whole move to elect Trump and let Israel do whatever they want is part and parcel with a Zionist white supremacist ideology. So let's not forget that. And if people think I'm anti-Semitic for saying so, oh well, because it's the truth. Here's another one from the Foreign Policy Research Institute on the growing threat of accelerationism. People are very much kind of, they're people on both sides of the aisle, especially on the outside. I'm making the gesture because horseshoe theory is also coming to play here a little bit. But both folks on both sides of the aisle are now starting to say the same thing. They're starting to go, well, maybe everything needs to go to shit, so it'll be better. Which better do you want to work towards, I guess is the question now. Which better do you want? So read up. That's your first piece of homework. Read up on accelerationism because you're going to need that. That's going to be important to what we do next. And secondly, I want to have us read up. Thank you to Seisha from I Too Am a Test Kitchen for dropping this great link. I was happy to absolutely for decades. Thank you, Diane Knight. Republicans have been talking about acceleration for decades, but nobody thought they would actually get a chance to do it. Yeah, they've been co-opting acceleration since the 70s. Absolutely. And the fact that we're here now is a dedicated organizing, whether it's loose or as structured as you want to think about it, is a dedicated way of organizing to get to this piece of total collapse, so that you can now institute what the hell you want, right? Excuse me, I'm sorry. And then so read up on accelerationism. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's long and boring, and that usually loses people. But just know that it is something that is now a real and present issue for our everyday lives as we move forward post this election. So just think about that, and we'll come back together soon to keep talking about these things, because I'm first and foremost an educator, and there's lots to say. There's lots of things that we can do. I have lots of stories from the campaign. I have lots of stories. I have lots of things to talk about. But the first thing I want to talk about is accelerationism. The second thing I want to talk about, and I'll read. Excuse me. I'll read it from, did I send it to myself? Yes. From the link, the Waging Nonviolence link that Asisha sent me. Thank you, sent us. Shout out to Ituba Test Kitchen for their amazing contributions today on the internet too. I also want to say something else. It's okay to block people. Just block them. You have to deal with motherfuckers in real life who are not for your well-being. Block these motherfuckers on Facebook and Instagram and wherever else. Block them. You don't have to. I am not arguing with any crazy ass white man on the internet about nothing. I'm not arguing with y'all. Y'all coming on the page every time I post something, oh, that's liberalism, leaving your body, oh, this is that. Y'all want to control everyone's body, and I'm not here for that. So I'm not arguing with you online. I already have to deal with y'all in the world all the time. I'm not fucking arguing with y'all about nothing. And I encourage you, especially black women, to take the same posture. Don't argue with these motherfuckers. Get them out of there. They don't need to be in your sphere of influence. Yes, this is an echo chamber. If you do not like it, go to another echo chamber. I don't know what to tell you. So 10 ways to be prepared and grounded now that Trump has won. This is the last thing I want to talk about before I speak directly to black women. The key to taking effective action in a Trump world is to avoid perpetuating the autocrat's goals of fear, isolation, exhaustion, and disorientation. And I really like this. This is by Daniel Hunter. Daniel wrote it. Has been writing this for a long time, and you should definitely read this article. The first thing that's there is trust yourself, and that's the first one. And it's okay to literally be like, I trust me on this one, and that this was going to be bad, and it happened that way, and I am not going crazy. I will not be gaslit by Jake Tapper telling me that this is not about sexism and racism. It's about fucking eggs and gas. I'm not going to be gaslit into thinking that eggs and gas caused a majority of Americans to go, I would rather have a felon rapist, idiot savant as a president versus a black woman who is well accomplished and amazing. I don't think Americans are that worried about eggs. And yes, people are saying economy. And when you ask them what parts of the economy they're talking about, when you dig into that, they can't tell you. I had somebody tell me, well, we saw an immigrant in the grocery store with a car full of groceries, and they had more than me. And I want to talk about what that means when we say a sentence like that. When we say something like that, we are kicking into that self-preservation mode. Not necessarily because you have to be in self-preservation mode, but because you have been kind of media bombarded and other things into being in self-preservation mode. We have tactics and tools in our communities to take care of each other, but the individualistic self-preservation of me, and sometimes it's not even me and mine. Sometimes it's just me. That people, a lot of times it's just me people are thinking about. Because fuck your wife, apparently, and your daughters. You don't care about them. But definitely, I care about how, I'm good to fare in the world, and I'm the person who's responsible for them. So their needs are secondary, mine are primary. But anyway, when we talk about this putting self-preservation above all else, we get a lot of these weird outcomes. We get these things. This is not an outlier. Trump getting over 300 electoral college votes is not an outlier. People say, "Oh, well, it's a fluke." It wasn't. It wasn't a fluke. But trust yourself. Trust yourself to know that, one, this is what it is, and two, you have to still trust others who are in it with you, because that's the other part that's going to be hard. Not people are going to start looking at each other funny. I'm not even looking at them. I'm looking towards the people who I know mean the best for my community, for myself, and I'm going to keep looking there. Find others who you trust is the next one on that, right? So trusting yourself first, and then finding others who you trust. The emotional part of this, and this is something that Daniel goes through in this article, is very important to do. You got to do the work of centering yourself. You got to do the work of bringing yourself back to baseline. You got to do that work in order to do more work, in order to do better work, in order to do smarter, to work smarter, not harder, in order to feel like you're not spinning your wheels. I want to be very clear with you. I do not feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I feel like I've made great progress in my community despite of. I was able to pump tens of thousands of dollars into the greater Harrisburg community, into South Central Pennsylvania, into primarily Black and brown businesses. Do you know how proud that makes me? Right? Because that's the issue, right? The economy, it was an issue, right? From $1 billion campaign, I was able to take a slice of that and bring it here. And that's something I'm proud of. Yes, they were slow to pay people. Yes, they was fighting with me about things, but I'm going to fight back, and y'all know me, and I'm going to fight for those who I know deserve it, and that's all of you. And I trust y'all, and I think that's really where I'm going with this whole thing. I trust y'all. The reason why I would pour into this community is because I trust my community. I've been working with y'all day in and day out. Of course I trust you. Of course I'm going to bring money to your business. Of course I'm going to highlight you. Of course I'm going to try to get you national attention. Of course I'm going to promote you in different circles. I trust you guys. That's the point of the story. So I think I'm good on 1 and 2. I trust myself, and I trust my intuition, and I have found people that I trust. Grieve. This is important. Be sad. Be angry. Be all of it. Why do people say that? Oh, so stupid. Do that too. Be like, this is so stupid. Do all of that. Because you have to get these emotions out to kind of line everything up, right? You have to do it. If you don't, you're going to be operating from a place that isn't clear. You're going to be operating from a place that isn't the most beneficial to you and your family, right? Especially under this extended regime, right? This resurgence of this Trump regime. You want to operate from a clear place. A lot of people say, well, I don't feel anything. I just want to work. Yes, do some of that too. But whenever you are in your work, you feel like you have to take a break and get the emotions out, do it. Whether it's cry, whatever it is, sleep a little bit, sleep a lot, whatever it is, do it, because you're going to need it in order to move forward effectively. Like today, I kept trying to check in with myself a lot in between sleep and taking my medication and doing all that stuff. And I was like, I am just numb right now. I don't feel a lot. I think I'm moving towards anger, but I'm more on the numb side and just kind of like, hey, America has spoken, right? But I'm trying to feel that and feel it in real time and not stuff it down, because I'm very good at stuffing it down, compartmentalizing, and just keep working. And I don't want to do that right now. I just want to feel it, and be it, and sit in it, and figure out how to use it as fuel to do something better. Release that which you cannot change. This is a big one. We cannot change the outcome of this election. There aren't that many. There are still counting votes, but there's nothing to find, right? Loudly in just Pennsylvania alone, we'll talk about Pennsylvania, Trump won by 170,000 votes. That's twice what he won. That's twice what Biden won. That's twice what Biden's margin was, right? That's twice what Hillary lost by. So there is nothing to find. Don't go that route. Don't try to opine the Electoral College right now. You can't change it right now. Do we have to work towards dismantling the Electoral? Oh, absolutely. Facts. But Trump also won the popular vote. So sit with that, and you can't change that either, because your fellow Americans, particularly white Americans, were like, nah, this is the guy we want. Find your path. Find what you want to do, how you want to do it, and operate from a place of effectiveness, right? You don't have to despair. A lot of people, well, I'm terrified. Yeah, it is terrifying. But I don't want you to get into the pit of despair because then we cannot be effective. And if I can charge you with anything, it's how to be effective in this time because that's the important part. Number 6, do not obey in advance. Do not self-censor. This is my favorite one. You understand? The Washington Post and Los Angeles Times cowardly refused to endorse a political candidate. It appears a classic example of self-censorship. Trump did not have to make any direct threat to these media outlets. Their own leadership told them to sit this one out. Why? Because they wanted to stay safe. People, I'll tell you something. Staying it safe does not pay off. As we can see in this election, doesn't pay. Make the bold choice. Speak up. Do not obey in advance. Obey in advance is this: I want to take it safe because what if Trump exacts his retribution on me? I want to say this very clear and loudly: fuck that guy. And there is no amount of retribution that he could exact on me that's going to make me stay silent about the oppression of the people that I serve and the communities that I hold in high regard. There's just none. So fuck him. If autocrats teach us any valuable lesson, it's this: the political space you don't use, you lose. Do you see what we lost? You see? People are like, well, you don't get anything anyway under Democrats, so we didn't lose anything. You did. We've gotten a lot under Democrats. All of our every social safety that you have had in the last 100 years came under a Democratic administration. Trump has tried to cut every single one of those. So yes, there's a lot to lose. There's a lot on the line. And because we said genocide was a deal breaker, we're also going to lose all of that. And maybe we should. Maybe that is our position as a country, that we should lose all of those and not be able to help anybody else. I don't know, but maybe that's how we're feeling. Number 7, simply put, before we go to number 7, simply put, use your political space and the voice you have. Read this article, it's very good. Reorient your political map. This is extremely important. Sit down, if you've especially been working on campaigns like this, sit down and assess from within yourself and in your circles who was for and against, who did and didn't do what, who helped and who didn't help, who tried to come at you sideways when you were just trying to help. Assess it all. Don't make a burn list, don't do that, but make your lists and decide how you're moving forward. And then decide who should be running for office. Because a lot of the other things that I see, we see in Pennsylvania a lot is seats go unchallenged because they're in red areas and people don't think about running because it's too hard, and 2, because they don't think they're going to win. But you have to assess the political map and you have to run for office. I want for our next election that no seats go unchallenged in our areas. From sea to shining sea, no seats go unchallenged because in order to preserve democracy, you have to participate. So Daniel writes, a few months ago I sat in a room with retired generals, Republicans, Michael Steele, ex-governors. We were scenario planning ways to prevent using the Insurrection Act to target civilian protesters, playing step by step who would give the orders and whom would and to whom orders to whom and how the worst could be avoided. For a committed anti-war activist, the phrase strange bedfellows doesn't begin to describe the bizarre experience I felt. You know what that means? There are Republicans and Democrats who didn't want this, that we all need to be working together, independents, etc. People were afraid if Kamala Harris won that we would push the party right. Well, your referendum ensures that we don't now. Your referendum ensures that we had to regroup and push the party left. If that's what you want. Do you see what I'm saying? If that's what you would like. Because this referendum on the Democratic Party is actually less of a referendum on Kamala Harris than it is on the Democratic Party. But if you were saying before now, a win with Kamala Harris would push the party right, as a lot of people were saying, then this is your chance for that not to happen. You have to reassess the political map, start planning your seats, start planning what you're going to do, start planning for how, when this government fucks us, what we do, because it's coming. With a almost red House, a definitely red Senate, and a definitely Republican presidency and entire cabinet. Get ready. Just get ready. Get that political map going. Get real about power. This is a great one. In Trump's first term, the left's organizing had mixed results. With John McCain's assistance, we were able to block Trump's health proposal. We don't have those safeguards anymore. Get real about what the Supreme Court has done, what it means to have all three. If you want to see Trump on steroids, this is the term. All three branches of government and the Supreme Court, baby, he gonna do what he want. And so, how do you cope under that? The psychological exhaustion and despair is much higher. Deploying people into the streets for mass action with no clear outcome will grow that frustration. So you have to be strategic. Read this article. All right. He ends that session by saying, as a disruptive and obey person, we had to move deliberately to gain the trust of others, like the protecting people folks. Mass non-cooperation does the opposite of their goal protection. It exposes people to more risk, more repression. But with that comes the possibility that we could get the kind of liberatory government that we all truly deserve. So we got to think about these things. Handle fear, make violence rebound. This is a great one. Optor in Serbia has provided an abundance of examples on how to face repression. There were young people who took a sarcastic response to regular police meetings. They would joke amongst each other. It only hurts if you're scared. The attitude wasn't cavalier, it was tactical. They were not going to grow fear. So when hundreds were beaten on a single day, the response was, "This repression will only stiffen the resistance." So, if we have to take a beating, which we will, be prepared. You have to have a gory resolve, because the beatings are meant to break you, right? The way that they're going to erode our rights, it's meant to break you. So you have to be more resolved and grow the numbers of the resistance. That's what you have to do. They were also practical. They would follow their arrested protesters to jail cells and insist on making sure they were being treated well. They would target police who beat them up, showing up outside their houses with pictures of the people they beat up. Their call was rooted in the future they wanted. You'll have a chance to join us, right? They kept the door open for people to change, which I think is important. And handling fear is not about suppressing it, but it's about constantly redirecting. Once activists described to me two motions in the universe, shrinking or expansion. When Donald Trump directs the Justice Department to use sedition charges against protesters or arrest his political enemies like Jamie Raskin or Liz Cheney, what's our response? Because we have to be ready for those things, even on the local level, right? Because it's not just this national thing that's far away from us. What we see on the national level will manifest locally, just like it did the first time Trump was president. Envision a positive future. It's number 10. I don't feel certain, Daniel writes, and I'm not predicting we win. But we've all now imagined storylines about how bad it might get. Now it's time that we do ourselves the service to spend an equal measure of time envisioning how we might advance our causes in these conditions. What does it look like to have joy in these conditions? People made so much fucking fun of Kamala Harris for being a joyful candidate. But that joy is what got us through very difficult times. The last less than 100 days have been excruciating. Excruciating. It has been hard trying to reason with people about why this black Jamaican Indian woman should be president. And y'all were like, nah. So it would follow that we would just be like, oh, we're going to sit out the rest of America, right? We're going to sit out the rest of the final finale season of America. But we're not. We had to be here. We had to live here. I know a lot of people are struggling with, thoughts of suicide. I've ignored a lot of messages today of people who are just in despair because I can't hold it. But we have to intentionally envision a better future. That's something that we can do. We know we have to get Trump out of office. We know he'll be out of office in 4 years. But what can we do in the meantime? We can look towards our midterms. We can constantly organize actions in the community to help those who are going to struggle the most under this regime. We have to organize for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We all have to take different actions from different angles in order to not just feel some sense of normalcy, which is what I think people are going for, but to make progress. We can make progress under this administration, despite what it looks like. So that's most of Daniel Holter's article. I want to say to particularly black women, again, I'm talking to black women a lot because 1am, 1 and 2, they voted 92% for Kamala Harris. What you're not going to do is tax us. Do not require anything else of us right now until we're ready again. And that includes me. I'm not organizing anything right now. So if y'all want to organize stuff and I'll come to it, I will support you. But I'm not organizing anything. I just spent 6 months organizing things that people told me I was doing wrong or whatever. I'm not organizing anything else. I've done the things. I've tried to bring together every demographic that I know to bring together. So that is my contribution for now. Yes, that's right. Christian, do not obey in advance. Yep, they are. It's the immigrant mentality of work hard, keep your head down. It's so deeply ingrained. Absolutely. Exactly, exactly right, Courtney. They think they won, but it's like thinking you won Russian roulette because you found the bullet. Absolutely. Um, but I want to say to y'all, do not tax black women right now. Black women literally left their families to the wayside for this campaign to make sure that we won. There are people who literally put everything on hold. They quit their jobs to help us avoid what actually still happened. This is not only is it not our fault, but I refuse to now handhold people who have been trying to get involved for 6 months. I'm not doing that. Because y'all know me, I work, I do the things. If y'all want to start organizing, I am there for you. I am. But I don't like when we get to the end and then y'all be like, well, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? You tell me. And then for black women, I am proud of us. You can see I have a little bit of a posture about me because I'm a little on my high horse today because we told everybody. But I'm proud of us because we stuck by our own morals, and that's something that a lot of groups don't do. As you can see, black men, I'm proud of you, especially the ones who were rallying for black women. I had so many older black men in my community in particular who were like, I can't believe any black man that wouldn't vote for this black woman. We come from black women. We love black women. And that's what kept me going. Shout out to Alfonso for that. Mr. Alfonso for that. So I am clear on black people. My love for black people is renewed. Yeah, we lost a little bit of people to Trump, I think, because, you know, some of us are going to believe the white supremacist lie, right? Like, that's how it goes. So I'm not at all disillusioned that that's not a thing. But the overwhelming majority of black people voted for Kamala Harris, and I could not be prouder of us. Good job. Well done. Job well done on that. And I am proud to be in my community. I think I put up the Harrisburg little blue in the sea of red because we stay blue. Not one of our precincts voted for Donald Trump in the city of Harrisburg. So I'm proud of y'all for that. And, you know, we had some people here and there. But from the River Wards to South to Uptown to Allison Hill to South Allison Hill, all the way around the city, not one of our precincts overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. And I'm proud. I'm proud. Dauphin County did not go for Donald Trump. We got a little closer because the red parts definitely came out. But I'm proud of us for being a little bastion of blue in a sea of red. A sea of red, particularly in this election. And I said this when I was coming onto the campaign in June, and I made my first video like this, and I said, I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure. And I feel like so many of you did as well. You stopped everything you were doing to make sure that you did all you could, and that's all we can ask. That's all we can do. And now that you've done all you can, I know Donnie McClellan says stand, but I'm going to say rest. It's somebody else's job now, guys. It's not ours. We did everything we could. I know I did. Y'all saw me. So thank you. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for working with me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for loving me through what is going to be a very hard time. Thank you for loving me through what was a hard time. And thank you for allowing me to do what I could to bring resources to the community to try and turn this thing out. We have a lot of work to do, but I believe we can do it together. So... did I miss anything? Oh, Palestine, last but not least. Now is the time to really start going all in again for Palestine. Do not despair on the work that you can do. Do not get cold feet. It is dire and it is dismal, but you have to organize now. You have to. And I'm not going to let a few of you motherfuckers who tried to cuss me out earlier deter me from that either. All this work I was doing right now was because I didn't want this outcome. And now I will continue to organize. So I invite you to join that as well. So thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for holding space for black women this week and going forward. Shout out to Joteka Edie, a Win with Black Women who put her heart and soul into this. Donna Brazile, Star Jones, all the black women who led the charge to get Kamala Harris onto the Democratic ticket. You guys say she was a bad candidate. She wasn't. Maybe you are disillusioned with the Democratic Party, but Kamala Harris was not a bad candidate. Donald Trump was a bad candidate, and is going to be a terrible president. So stay organized. Black women, take your rest. Black men, thank you for your support. Everyone else who tried to stop fascism and tyranny, you are much appreciated. The American people have spoken, and we have work to do. All right. I'll see you later. Bye.